Hello again. I tried twice and I'm gonna try a third time. I'm gonna see what happens. um, I took my video down yesterday because I have this thing where I want my words to be the focus, and even though I tried to make myself presentable, when I watched the video back, something told me to watch it back, but I forgot to bring my little cover up, my sweater. I think too much of my top half was exposed. Even though I didn't have any cleavage out, it still was too much for me, so to be comfortable, so I didn't leave it up. Anyway, the general message was us speaking up when we have things on our chest and not holding them in to the point where we blow up. And it's still true. For anybody who got to see that, I'm sorry. Anybody who didn't get to see it, I'm sorry. I just didn't feel comfortable leaving that up without being covered up. Even though I still have my day in the park, which is the most important thing is for me to go there and have some quiet and be with the trees. Like, I love those trees in City Park. Anyway, my goal in talking to you today is to continue that conversation, but also to say to you, I don't super 100% feel comfortable all the time speaking my truth. And so I find a way to bring levity to it. And I laughed. And sometimes when I laugh, it's out of nervousness. And sometimes it's genuine. I just think it's funny. And I think the best way to deliver a message is through being as authentic as I possibly can to the feelings that I am at that moment. Am in at that moment. And right now, I'm having a hard time seeing how anything I say or do is going to be beneficial sometimes. And this is one of those times. I just have hope, and I don't know why. I do. I really do think that it is plausible and possible for all of us to collectively be a better version of ourselves, to create and generate energy that is a better energy. I know I don't know. I know that there is a way to prove that, but we can't do it if we don't try. Honestly, I was just satisfied with seeing the people that I see, helping the people that I help, and sending them on their way to their forever therapist or helpers in any way that I can, while just living a peaceful life and minding my own business. But I think that the fallacy with those thoughts is that my own business is not just my own business. The world is my business, just like the world is your business. We know that there are things going on around the world that is challenging, but we can also find joy in our everyday existence or create it. We do know that. Doesn't mean we ignore what's going on around us. And it makes me sad sometimes to think that a lot of work that's being done by helpers around the world, or whatever given field they're in, that the job might get harder or not be supported enough to be able to do the job well. So whatever I can do, I try to do it. There's not a week that goes by that I don't either meet someone or encounter someone in my daily life that I'm not going to advocate for what I talk about on here all the time. Saying mental health, normalizing mental health care, normalizing mental health care education, because that's also important. Knowing what type of caregiver and helper you need, or someone you might know or love or care for needs, is important. I equivalent it to our Narcan shot. If you don't have to have some kind of master's degree or higher education degree to educate yourself on the different levels of care, counseling, therapy, clinical psychology. I'm going to share a few of those things with you right now so we can understand. And then you look up some of the things so you can understand, that kind of thing, right? So there's every state generally has a counseling association. Basically, each counselor in each state have to be licensed through their own state. And on that state's counseling board, you can find every therapist that is licensed in their specialty area, typically. Now, also on Psychology Today, you can also find most counselors around the country on Psychology Today. You can also find some counselors on the National Association for Counselors website as well. So there's the local, state counseling associations as well as the national counseling associations. And you can find counselors in their specialty area. A lot of times they'll have pictures of what they look like. Not that I say that someone's competency is not dependent upon their picture. However, I think the picture helps when bridging the gap between being nervous about figuring out if you can join well with your counselor or not. The picture helps if you see someone that seems culturally similar to you. Okay? Until that doesn't matter no more. Like, for instance, I am aware that there are a lot of female people who may not feel comfortable in the presence of a male counselor. Well, you're not going to join well if you're nervous. You're not going to join well possibly if you're uncomfortable in some kind of way, because the topics that you're there to talk about is something that is male related and vice versa. Okay? This is the easiest way and pathway to finding someone for yourself or someone you care for. Okay? Look at the specialty area. So if you know that you have, for instance, something extreme as self-harm ideation, well, there are people who specialize in that. There's not just and in every city, every major city, and not even necessarily just major cities, it can be small towns, typically have a crisis hotline. Google the crisis hotline and then put your city and state in there, and it's going to spit out some websites. Now, there's even specialty areas for LBG. Y'all excuse me, because sometimes I get the acronyms mixed up in my mouth. LBGTQIA. You can put that in. Crisis hotline. Therapists that are competent with those areas. Things like this. If you are someone who is dealing with specifically with anxiety, but you prefer a female clinical professional or something like this, you can actually put that in the Google. And not just the Google, okay? Go to your state and city and put it in there. And then you can see reviews and stuff. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people know this. But the easiest pathway to find someone who is licensed or someone who is known in their community is to go to your state's board, your state counseling board, to find a counselor. Now, if you want psychiatry, someone who prescribes medication, they also have a state board as well, and you can do the same thing in those same areas. Okay? Now, one thing I'd like you to understand, it shouldn't prevent you from getting help if you feel like you need help. If you know that if you have some kind of self-harm ideation, depending upon what you're expressing to your helper person. And when I say helper person, I'm not diminishing any particular field at all. I'm saying that there's therapists, there's social workers, there's clinical psychologists that can listen to you that are doing talk therapy. These are 3 different types that are generally doing talk therapy with you. Okay? Your psychiatrist is mainly there to try to diagnose any chemical imbalances in the brain to see if they can help you in that area. Okay? Psychiatrists clinical therapist, clinical psychology, clinical social work are different things. Clinical therapists and social workers are very similar. In other words, they do more talk therapy, and they don't necessarily prescribe any medications, and they typically do not. A clinical psychologist, however, may or may not be able to prescribe you medication. The psychiatrist's job is to diagnose and prescribe medication specifically. They're not necessarily there for talk therapy. However, you will be asked, especially in initial sessions, to talk to that person, okay? To tell them what's going on, symptoms and circumstances within your life that are contributing to the chief complaint. No different than a medical doctor in that realm, but they're dealing with the mental, okay? Now, as far as the things that I've talked about as it pertains to talking to some kind of authority figure or person, it's okay to go to your clergy and be like, okay, there's this person that I'm concerned about. If that's something that's in your community that is well respected and regarded, okay? It is okay to go to the local crisis center and ask for help as to how to talk to someone about yourself or anyone else that you fear may be in danger of becoming violent. I think the solution, or possible of many possible solutions, is to begin to talk when we sense or understand or see things that make us more aware. And if there's a person that you think is anxious, making threats, whether it be in person, online, or otherwise, and there's a person that's known to you, you're not responsible for that person, no, unless they're your child or something like that. But if you are aware of this person and you want to get them some help, yes, I've said, talk to their parents if you are a friend or someone that is a relative of. Outside of that, there are also local crisis centers in almost every metropolitan city near you. Ask for the help. What is the steps? What steps can I take? And a clinical psychologist, a therapist, social worker can all actually talk you through that as well. Because I feel like those are the best people who are best equipped to handle those type of crises. I really do. And once you take those steps, at the very least, check in with yourself. Therapy is not just because something's wrong with you or something's not okay with your brain. Sometimes it's just a wellness check-in. Even if you only need 1, 2, or 3 sessions. Okay? If you have the ability to, I encourage you highly. Okay? Part of this statement is because I feel like the best possible outcome for us all is that we start understanding that, yes, there's a mental health care crisis, but it's not necessarily a crisis if we have it available to us and we're not using it, or we're not using it in a way that it could be used to be preventative of a lot of this stuff. And I know not everybody have access. One of the first questions I ask someone when they come to me is, okay, what kind of insurance do you have? Because I learned a long time ago, I have to ask, what kind of insurance you have before we go looking for a therapist for you? What kind of insurance do you have? Because not everybody can afford out of pocket. And I get that. I get it. First thing I'm asking is what kind of insurance you have. And although I don't like that, I think, at least if nothing else, our mental health care should be something that everybody has access to whenever they need it. We have enough therapists. A lot of times therapists are not paid enough to get the job done. But until we can improve that, pick your insurance. That's another way you can look to. On even the board websites in Psychology Today, it's a lot of those postings show you what insurance someone carries, or you can Google them, buy your insurance, and find someone that you feel you can join well with, or someone you care about and love can join well with. Find out what kind of insurance company they have, if you're close enough to that person, and try to find someone for them and suggest some therapists for them if that's something you feel you can do for somebody you feel like is in danger of causing harm to self or others. Or if you just feel like they're having a difficult time, you take a few steps out of that run. You take a few steps out of that rat race for them. And as kind as you can do for at least one person. Okay? Now, I'm not saying everybody gonna listen. I'm saying it's something you can do. That's what you can do. Sometimes I think when we hear about tragedies, we feel hopeless and helpless. You're not hopeless. You are neither hopeless nor helpless. You can go ahead and do that. And to the younger people, if there's younger people watching, I doubt it, because most of the people who watch are people who I teach to meditate and go to therapy, and the importance of therapy and astrology and things like that. So these are not typically young people. There are people who are like late 20s and up kind of thing. Every now and then I get a kid, but someone younger than that. To me, babies are 21 and younger. I don't think that I should leave them out just because I don't think they're watching. Maybe someone who watching me can tell them, you know? If you know of someone who you feel like might need that kind of thing, go ahead. Y'all are the best at it right now. Even though we were the generators of it, y'all are the best at researching things like this. But I'm saying some really common sense or common knowledge things. But I'm encouraging the implementing of, doing more regularly, asking someone if they need help finding a therapist, or do you think you've been the best way to approach a conversation that I've thought of so far when I encounter folks who I feel like could be helped in some way by therapy is asking, do you think you would benefit from some therapy? And then talk about my experiences in therapy and how it helped me. And also experiences, everybody's not going to have the experiences being a therapist, right? Yeah. But I talk about that too. The good stuff, the good outcomes, and the way people have improved their lives. Or if nothing else, improve the way that they see themselves. I think it is important for us to also understand that supporting someone through therapy, like being the friend that's on how did therapy go this week, is also a good conversation. Or having a pact that you both go to therapy together and you both exchange stories of how therapy went would be also great. And I know therapy is being more normalized, but amongst those who need it the most, it's not always. And I know that the kids are influencing each other to do just about all kinds of things. This is one of those things that I'm asking, that you can influence each other to do. It's not just go to therapy for yourself, but maybe every now and again, ask somebody who's going through something. You think you benefit from therapy? That's how I found my therapist. And then tell them all the ways I just told you on how to find therapists in their area. Now, I used to have a Rolodex, a little book, and now it's just so at my fingertips I don't have to have that anymore. Or I could just find therapists, and I know exactly how to find them because it's so, I've gotten so good at going and getting something specific insurance, or somebody who has pro bono hours, or someone who has low cost or sliding fee scale for someone who doesn't have insurance. Sliding fee scale, if you haven't heard of that, it just simply means that someone will look at your income and determine how much you pay based on the income that you have, which is the greatest thing to find in a competent therapist. Okay? So somebody says sliding fee scale, don't get intimidated by that. That's all that means. That means that they're going to work with you to make sure you get therapy and can afford it. Okay? And as complicated as Medicaid can be sometimes, I do advocate, if you don't have insurance, to try to get that until we can find a better system. Over this next month or two, I really do think that a lot of folks is going to be feeling their heavy feels. I'm going to the astrology side, so if you don't want to hear no astrology talk, then go ahead and go. That's all I have to say to you for the day. But it's not going to be too heavy astrology. It's more like, I think it's going to be more people speaking their truth, but I'm asking that you do so in a way that's coming from a space of loving self, but also from a space of you ain't trying to make an enemy. We don't need to make no more enemies with each other. We really don't. Like everybody I've talked about, even up till now, none of those people, I don't perceive them to be my enemies. I perceive them to be people that I learn things from, because we all just walking each other home. Now, even the ones I'm like, I cannot believe you did that. I still perceive them as teaching me something about myself, so that I can grow or be stronger in some way. Me holding on to anger, and I used to, me holding on to anger never benefited me none. It really didn't. It stressed me out plenty, made me sad, and sometimes depressed, but it never benefited me none. I don't know nobody who hold on to anger for any kind of extended period of time that benefited them any. And in order for the acts of violence that I've seen in our recent history, in our recent zeitgeist, in order for that to be going on, there's people holding on to anger out there all over the place. One of the best ways I know to help you release that is, now, everybody ain't praying folk, and I understand that, and that's fine. I'm not judging you that. But at least meditate. Learn how to meditate. But also, if you're a praying folk, sit in prayer. Ask for guidance. It doesn't matter what the title of your religion is. That's not what we're here for. That's not what I'm talking about. It's about sitting in solitude and actually going within and thinking, what is this anger doing for me? Ask yourself, what is that anger doing for me? And if it ain't doing nothing, if it's not motivating you to get up and do something. See, part of my anger motivated me to get up and do something. Some of it good, some of it not so good. So I will say to you, if you want good outcomes, ask yourself what that anger is doing for you. And if it ain't doing nothing good for you, then figure out how to dissipate it. And figuring out how to dissipate it is, in my experience, it's been this simple. How did I contribute? And what did I learn? What did I learn from that? And then imagine yourself in agreement with that person outside of this space and time. Imagine yourself agreeing that that person would teach you that, so that you wouldn't have to learn a second or third time. Imagine that person was teaching you something about yourself, regardless of the circumstances. Even if you don't think that they had any good intentions towards you, imagine that they were trying to teach you something. And then take the imagination away, make it your reality, and say, I actually did learn something. And write down what you learned. Even if you write their name, like, from this person, I learned. I was telling you more recently about my time working in the DA's department. And even with all those things that were hurtful and some things I learned, because the actual DA was such a cool guy, he was so sweet. And I learned that he was dearly departed probably, I want to say, about a month ago. I'm like, how did I not know that? I've been that out of the loop, y'all. And when I first met him, I didn't even know who he was. It was very non-assuming, but very kind, very, just non-assuming and cool person. So it's one of those things where it's like, I need to circle back and say that, because I really liked him. And even with all the other things that I dealt with, even in that one job, how I got past it, and I can laugh at it now and not cry. So like, what was I learning about myself? What was I learning about my environment? What was I being taught? And that's what helped me get past it. That's what helped me put one foot in front of the other. Doesn't mean that I didn't have a lot of days where I had to weep through it. It's not in any way weak to weep through something. As a matter of fact, I think it's a stronger position to weep through it than to fight through it in a physical violence sense. I think one of the things that I left with is understanding that. And yeah, I held on to some animosity, and that's why I was laughing about it. I was like, I said, and I just laughing at myself, because if we can find some levity, at least even in the times where we felt pain or frustration, that also helps you heal too. Laughter. One of the biggest reasons why I can now get on here and talk to you about my father or my family or any friends I've had is because I've gotten to a space of healing enough to be able to laugh at some of that stuff. Or healing enough to be able to talk about it without pain. Now, even if you see me weep, in some of the stories you have seen me weep, it's not a fresh pain. I'm not being triggered. I'm feeling in the moment. And I'm not sad after I'm done. So know that. But it took a lot of sitting with myself, using therapeutic methods and journaling and things like this to get me there. These stories are not just to be like, oh, I'm airing somebody's dirty laundry. Listen to me. If that were the case, I would have gave names. That wasn't what it's about. That's all I have to work with is my own stories. And I use them to teach you. Okay? And sometimes, I think that's better than just trying to make up something out of a book. I feel exposed and nude a lot of the times when I'm doing this. I think that's why I've been so hesitant to even do it. It was easier for me to just post on Facebook because nobody saw me. And I didn't have a great experience when I went on TikTok. So, it was not fun to do that. I was already a ball of nerves. And my friends encouraged me to go. And then when I did go, I saw something that hurt my heart. And then saw another thing that hurt my heart. Then had a falling out with my friend. Then all kinds of other mess happened. I'm just like, I don't even know why I'm in here. Can't do what I need to do and I'm going to leave. There's other ways I can do this. Even if it's just one person. Hey, do you think, how can I help you find a therapist? How can I help you learn to meditate? How can I help you? And that's all that matters to me right now. As it pertains to such things anyway. But I'm telling you, I don't know if this is going to help. I don't know if exposing myself and making myself naked is going to help. That's what it feels like. It's going to help. I don't know if it is or not. I know my stories are unique, so maybe they're entertaining. And if I can throw in a little bit of, hey, let's love each other a little bit better and love ourselves a little bit better and go to therapy, go to therapy, go to therapy. Maybe that'll help. I don't know. I think I'm finally getting to a space where I'm not as upset about the stats about the gun violence in this country. It's not as fresh, but doesn't change the fact that I still feel it. And that's not the only thing that precipitated me wanting to be more vocal and say more things and bury myself a little bit more. There are many things that caused me to feel that way. I mean, obviously I have a beautiful little chirp baby that I get to love on, and I want her to have an easier future than the past that I've had. In a lot of ways, I think she will, because more people are normalizing therapy and meditation and journaling and things like this. But then I see those things and I feel like we're taking 2 steps forward and 1 back. And I feel like I'm not doing enough, because I could be doing more. But I think it's my ego, if I'm being honest. Partially my ego, and partially I don't want to be, even though I still think it's beneficial, I don't think it's for me, even though I've worked my butt off to get to that point. I think there's a part of my brain that spazzes when something's not quite right, and I try to fix it, and there are blockades in a way to fixing things. My brain spazzes in a way that I don't think is beneficial to me dealing with any kind of organization. Doesn't mean I can't support them in some way, because I still think that's the best we got right now. There's nobody, I think, that I can be aware of and have knowledge of that can tell me something different right now. I don't know anything better to do other than encourage people to go to therapy, encourage people to do that. And if nothing else, learn to sit still with yourself, meditate, journal. All these things are so crucially important. But I wish I was able to keep that video up. I'm gonna tell you, my shyness might. I'm like, I love the video too. I really just love what I have to say, but I couldn't keep that up. And I'm gonna be honest. I don't know how to go by a script. When I get on here, I have a topic in mind. I start talking, and then I say things. Okay, and that's usually how I roll. So it's not easy for me to go back to that video, look at what I said, and re-say it. But I will tell you, definitely, the biggest point of that was laughing at myself and all the times that I've stored up and worn a mask so I can be kind. So thinking it was kind, it was just being nice and polite when I know inside I didn't feel that way. And storing up anger, storing up resentment, storing up all kinds of vitriol, only to have it come out in a way that I didn't expect or want. And I think having more of a therapeutic presence, listening ears, sympathy, journaling, meditation, all these things would have benefited me in those moments. There are things I've done that I cannot ever take back out of just anger and rage. Now, I'm not going to say I didn't have justification in some kinds of way in some of those circumstances to be enraged. Doesn't mean it's the outcome I wanted. The outcome that happens doesn't mean it's the one I wanted. So, I would say to you, think of the outcome you want to. What did I learn? How is this? What is this anger doing for me or to me? And last step, what is the outcome you want? If the outcome you want don't match what the anger is telling you to do, then maybe, just maybe, might want to fit a mediator in there. And that mediator can be a clinical psychologist, a therapist, or a clinical social worker. Just saying. You're loved.